So in this video, I'll be talking about what it's like to navigate my career as an introvert and also a highly sensitive person. So yeah, let's get to it. So according to Elaine Aron, who actually coined the term highly sensitive person, a highly sensitive person is someone who is sensitive to the external environment, and it can show up as someone who might be more emotional, someone who is very compassionate and empathetic towards others, and is sensitive to criticism, who tends to overthink, who is more intuitive, and sometimes you feel like really overwhelmed and tired. You also feel like sometimes you're different from someone else and sometimes feel alone. So yeah, if you show these type of signs, you are probably a highly sensitive person. Okay, an introvert is obviously, people hear this term more often. For me, I would say an introvert is someone who is not shy, but is often mistaken as a person who is shy. An introvert is someone who gets their energy from being alone versus someone who is extroverted, who gets energy from being around people. So I would consider myself leaning towards the introverted side. My MBTI, Myers-Briggs personality, is INFJ. And when I did a test last time, I was like more towards like 40-something% like introverted, and I remember I was like right in the middle before, like extroverted and introvert. But I think like as I get older, I am leaning more towards the introverted side. I feel like I get more tired when I'm around people for too long, so I like to retreat and like get back my energy and then like go back and interact with people. So I want to share with you my personal experience being a highly sensitive person, introvert, in this world of where we kind of celebrate people who are extroverted, especially in the workplace. So I wrote down some of the things, like tips for people who are introverted and highly sensitive. And I've also will share my own personal experience in 2 different fields, so in healthcare but also in corporate and digital marketing and media. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay, I'm gonna start with talking about what it's like to be a highly sensitive person, introvert, working in healthcare. So if you guys don't know, but I used to be an occupational therapist. I actually just transitioned recently out of healthcare 2 months ago, and so I still kind of remember what it's like to work as a health professional, as a highly sensitive person, and a HSP, also known as a highly sensitive person. So I wrote down here the pros and cons of being a highly sensitive person and an introvert. So in healthcare, the good thing about being a health professional is that you have interactions where it's one-on-one. So an introvert usually does thrive on that type of interaction rather than in a group setting. And as a health professional, as an occupational therapist, we usually see people in a one-on-one like interaction rather than a group setting, and that has really like helped me as an introvert, because I feel like I'm getting to know the person on a deeper level rather than just like making small talk with a bunch of people, and I'm able to read the room better. And like I feel like because I was in a setting where I was seeing my client for a longer time rather than just like a few hours a day, like I was able to understand them better, and I think that really helped me like feel less anxious. And yeah, another thing I wrote down is definitely like there is more times where you can be engaged in like meaningful talks and genuine like deep topics, whereas in other jobs you might see yourself like doing more small talk, and I personally thrive on talking about deep topics. And yeah, like I don't feel as drained and tired from talking about deep topics, but I know there's certain personalities where when they start like to talk about deep topics, they get really drained. So yeah, I think if you are someone who really likes talking about deep topics with people, I think healthcare is definitely the area for you. I think another pro that I can think of is that you get to have periods of time in your day, depending on which setting you're in, to do notes and report writing. And this is like the best time for an introvert or highly sensitive person, because you can like be in your own zone. And I think it's really helpful if you have your own room. I think it is a bit tricky to focus when you're in an open office, but yeah, if you're in like a clinic room or therapy room and it's just yourself, I think that's like really a good time for you to rejuvenate before seeing the next client. And now I'm going to talk about the cons of being in healthcare as an introvert and highly sensitive person. So I wrote down here that it can often be overstimulating. So I have worked in different settings throughout uni, so the hospital setting, also community, like the school. And as a postgrad, I worked primarily in with children, so in pediatrics. So I work in schools, the clinic, the community, so at my client's home, and also like preschool as well. So I've been in different types of settings, and I would say that because you're working with people and you're working in different environments, it can often be overstimulating, especially in a school setting. And I felt like for me personally, like what I noticed is that I didn't like working in the hospital too, because of the smell and the light and just people like coming in and out all the time, like different type of noises happening, and it was just really overstimulating that it made me really anxious. And I always thought that it's because I was shy and that I was just not used to being an OT and I didn't know what I was doing. But I think now, like reflecting back on my experience, like I was really anxious in that type of environment. I couldn't really think, I couldn't really take in any information, and I think that definitely impacted on my performance. And it also made my supervisor feel like I wasn't performing as I should. So I definitely felt a shift when I moved into a hospital setting that was more slow. There wasn't like people coming in and out. So I definitely think like a outpatient and community setting was better for me. And I think that's why I after graduating, I decided to go into community work, like pediatric work, and also worked in youth mental health. Okay, so another thing that I want to talk about is it can be emotionally draining as like a highly sensitive person. Being a highly sensitive person means that you are quite sensitive to people's emotions. So especially when I was working, I feel like, yeah, working with children who have a disability, and also it being like the first time that their parents are hearing that their child has a disability, it is a really emotional time and vulnerable time for someone. And I think it definitely did affect me when I come to work. I do think about my clients after work, and I think it's so hard like to build that boundary and be mentally resilient as a highly sensitive person. And I always like blamed myself for not being that strong, not like, why do I feel so much? And yeah, I think that made me realize a lot about myself in that process. And if you're in this situation and you feel like, why am I so sensitive? I don't want you to put yourself down for this. This trait is actually really good if you are a health professional. You're able to empathize with your clients better. But I think it's really important for you to give yourself some space for your own self-care, and also have someone to talk to about how you're feeling. It's really hard to choose what type of clients you see, but if you talk to your supervisor, you can talk about how there's certain things that trigger you, like certain situations that trigger you, so you need a bit more like support around this. So yeah, like I feel like we're not perfect as a health professional, but we are still human. So I think it's really important for you to self-reflect and talk about these things with your supervisor and your colleagues as well. And I think it's really important for health professionals to talk about their mental health, because like these days, like people just kind of put like a mask on their face, just pretending to be okay. But I think we know that that doesn't end up like benefiting us at all. And yeah, different settings might be more emotionally draining than others. So as OTs, there's different settings that you can work in. So I worked in pediatrics, but I also worked in youth mental health, and I would say it's pretty obvious that when you work in mental health, you're going to be more emotionally drained. And I've learned a lot about being a health professional, how that, I guess, like how you might feel when you are hearing all of these stories. I've also learned about the term transference, where you feel like you are a part of their life, and it's like you're kind of like a part of their story. I think, if I'm wrong, please correct me. But I felt like there's a lot of situations where I saw myself in my clients, and I didn't think that was healthy, and that definitely did emotionally drain me. I felt triggered. I felt like I really wanted to help them as much as I can, because I felt like a little bit of trauma bonding happening as well. So yeah, I definitely think that if you're someone who has gone through your own traumas, and like I feel like if you ever feel like you're projecting or transferring your feelings onto someone, and you're wrapped around that story too much, I think it's really important for you to bring it up to your supervisor or someone you trust, obviously, like while keeping things confidential, and talking about how you're feeling and how you might need a break from work, or even like from seeing the client for a bit, so then you can be a better health professional, because you want to be able to fill your own cup first before you can help someone else. So yeah, another thing, which isn't too, I think what I talked about, like you do have a lot of deep conversations, but there's certain settings where you don't meet your clients for a long period of time. So especially in the acute setting, like you have to be able to make small talk. And I think also like for initial assessments, you need to be able to be comfortable with small talk as well. So small talk is basically like talking about the weather, talking about something that is not too deep. And I struggle with this the most. Sometimes I just get really awkward. I don't know what to say, because I find it really draining to do small talk. But I think being an OT definitely helped me get out of my comfort zone. I really had to train that muscle to just talk about anything, really. So yeah, if you're someone who is an introvert and a highly sensitive person, you might struggle with this. But yeah. Okay, now I will share with you my experience working outside of healthcare as a highly sensitive person and an introvert. So if you guys don't know, but I am now in digital marketing, more specifically in media and media agency. Sorry, I just talk really fast. But basically I work in a media agency, and I work on ads, so paid ads, paid social ads, so on social platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and more. And I work with like a few clients, but because our company is quite big, we have a team, and we work on just like a few clients. And yeah, so it's a work from home / office role, so it's a hybrid role. And definitely working from home has been the best for me in this time in my life. I felt like I was going through a lot of personal stuff, personal things in my life that has taken a toll on my mental health. So I really felt like this is such a good mental break for me, physically and also emotionally. And yeah, so I definitely think that this role, I don't feel drained. Like I don't feel emotionally drained, I don't feel physically drained. I think the only thing is like when you do have an office job, you often feel a bit lethargic because you're not moving as much. You're probably like not eating as healthy sometimes. But I think for me, like the job itself is not mentally draining. So yeah, I also feel like the majority of time I'm not really interacting with people. I am in digital marketing, so a lot of things happen online, and a lot of time I'm like on Excel sheets or looking at the ad manager, and the only time I'm interacting with people is with my coworkers and like when we have client meetings and the team meeting, but it doesn't happen often. So it is definitely a big change for me, and I definitely think it is a great option for someone who is an introvert or a highly sensitive person to really consider having a office job, a desk job. And like I think there's like this kind of, I don't know, like people kind of assume that office jobs are boring and that like there's not much meaning to it, and like I feel like it really depends on the area working in, and I think it's best to try it for yourself rather than to assume that it's not for you. And I honestly would say that I was someone that told myself I would never do an office job. I always wanted to do something that was in healthcare because you can definitely see the impact that you have on people, and I also like to like connect with people on a deeper level, so that's why I started in healthcare. But I realized that as I get older, I understand more about my personality, I understand more about about my highly sensitive side, and it definitely has impacted my ability to be the best version of myself outside of work. And I never wanted to be someone who is like irritable or like not like want to socialize after work. And yeah, I think I realized that I needed the change and I needed to try something different. I don't know if this is something that I'll do forever. I feel like it's never like set in stone, but I'm really like, I feel like this career transition has made me really open-minded to the different things that I can do, and what works for me as a introvert and also a highly sensitive person. So now I'm going to talk about the cons working in digital marketing and in corporate settings. So definitely there's going to be more small talk because like I think it's kind of obvious that in these settings it's not really about like helping someone's health, and it's not like improving someone's quality of life. So there's going to be times when you're going to talk about like more superficial things, and because it's more about making money and building a business and making profit, like you're gonna find yourself meeting people and talking about more superficial things. And honestly, it's kind of like a given. I feel like I can get pretty drained on an office day when I'm meeting lots of people, but I find that because my team is quite small, I tend to stick to my team, and it's really nice to like continue to talk to them and get to know them. So I think it really depends. I think it's if you are in a corporate setting, I think finding at least one person to talk to who you can go to is really important. Yes, definitely another thing is like making friends in the corporate setting can be hard. I think it's because you're not placed in a situation where you're vulnerable about anything really. Like you're just coming to work to do your work and you go home. There's no like pressure for you to share anything. And I think in healthcare, I think it's just like because we all have this common value of like helping people, we often have a background of having our own struggles with health, or someone in our family or someone we care about is struggling with something, and that often comes out when you're talking to someone. And that like when you share that vulnerability, it makes you closer to people very quickly. So I definitely saw that difference. But yeah, Anyways, now I'm going to finish off the videos by telling you some of the tips that I have for you if you're trying to navigate your career as an introvert and a highly sensitive person. Okay, so the first tip that I have is to build boundaries. So I feel like this is often talked about, especially if you are a people pleaser and you are highly empathetic. Building boundaries with your coworkers and your boss and your manager is really important. What I mean is like that boundary of like how much work you do, what you feel comfortable doing and what you don't feel comfortable doing, and also like building a boundary of like needing space to be alone in your own thoughts, like processing information, like how much time you need before you get back to them about something. Because I feel like people assume that every single employee is the same, like everyone's gonna work the same way, everyone responds to feedback the same way, everyone yeah, I think you get what I mean. But we know that we all come in different shape and sizes, so it's so important for bosses, employees to understand their employers to understand their employees, because like you're going to do so much better, be more productive when your employees' needs are met. And I honestly feel like I try to be my authentic self as possible. I think it was harder in my early 20s to be really upfront and also vulnerable about how I am coping in a job, and I think I've like slowly learned how to communicate my needs and be honest that I'm struggling, and be honest that I feel uncomfortable. And I think this also leads to my next point, is having a supportive supervisor is really important for your mental health. If you're working in any setting, healthcare or digital marketing, any setting you are in, if you are a highly sensitive person and you're an introvert, your needs are going to be different from someone who is more extroverted. And we all know that the workplace is built for an extroverted person who just easily communicates to people, who is just willing to like just jump in and do things. But as a highly sensitive person, we're more prone to experiencing anxiety and like freezing in the moment if we feel overwhelmed. And also, like if you're an introvert, you also need more time for yourself. So I think if you have a supervisor or a boss who just understands that everyone has different needs and they are not super controlling, and they kind of have that mental space to support different types of people, that's definitely a green flag. If you have a sense that like your boss or manager, supervisor doesn't have that mental space to really accommodate for your needs, then it's time for you to go. Because there's like, what I've learned is that there's so many types of like managers and supervisors and bosses out there that are more willing to put in the time and effort to like meet your needs. And yeah, like you don't have to really ask for it all the time and feel invalidated. And I also know that like you're not always going to get along with everyone the first time you have a job. You got to go through a few to meet the right people. And it's kind of like dating. I always use the analogy of dating and relationships when I'm talking about finding the right job. You need to go through different jobs like to understand what are your deal breakers, what are the red flags that you need to like spot out, and know that this is like not a good thing, like this is not good for you. And yeah, you just have to learn to stick to your boundaries and learn when it's good to leave. But also it's good to note down green flags in a job too, because you can't always focus on the negatives. You need to find the good things about a job and about your supervisor or boss that's helping you, because then when you have a new job, you can communicate what works for you. And it's not just a one-way thing, it's a two-way thing. You need to self-reflect as well and understand what you need. And yeah, if you are a highly sensitive person and an introvert, I would recommend you to try having a hybrid role or a work from home role. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if you are your own home, and I'm not saying everyone's home is the same. I am definitely lucky that I have moved out and that I can really create a space where it's calm and not overstimulating, and I definitely can empathize with you if you don't have that space. But yeah, like if you have your own home, you feel more calm at home, definitely consider working from home and having a hybrid role. And I think another thing that I mentioned is finding a less stimulating work environment. So sometimes it's not really like, it's not something that people can change, but I think understanding the different industries, and this kind of leads to my next point, is like, instead, don't chase a title and the prestige of a company or a job title. You should be looking for a role where, like, even like just reading like a day-to-day task, it kind of like excites you, or feel like this is something that I can do like every day, and I won't feel like I will quit the next day. And that's definitely the biggest thing that I've learned as an introvert and a highly sensitive person, because I've always been chasing certain jobs before their title, and the prestige of something and the reputation of something. And that's definitely something that I've chased, especially being a health professional. I felt like the title it made me feel valuable and worthy. And like when people hear that I'm a health professional, like definitely there is a prestige and it boosts my ego. But what I've learned is, like, when you're actually doing the job, like, how do you actually feel? And at the end of the day, is this something that you can do for a long time? I think another example that I can think of is me changing into youth mental health. I felt like I was chasing that, like, because I thought like, oh, this is something I'm interested in, like I probably should work in this field, right? But if you think about the day-to-day task, like I was in situations where there was high risk, there was a lot of heavy things I was like hearing and seeing, so it definitely wasn't the right field for me as a highly sensitive person. So yeah, I definitely think I think this is like kind of the best advice I would have for you. And in order to find out, instead of just like, if you don't want to just switch careers or settings, I would definitely recommend you to shadow someone. Even looking up daily life of like the person's job can really help you like understand like what to actually do, and like volunteering as well. So I did have some of this experience, especially with UX design, but more leaning towards UX research. I was a part of like this UX research, and I wanted to know like what it's like, what's the process like. I've also like watched videos of like the cons of working in each field. It's so like easy for us to think about the positive, and if you're like me, like once we like see something we like, we always want to like listen to the positive. We don't want to think about like the negative at all. But I think it's really important to listen to the cons, because that is definitely going to be something that will come up, and it might be a deal breaker. So something that I've realized is that I don't really like to have a lot of meetings in a day, especially if it's like a group setting and I have to be constantly like critiqued for my work. I still want to have some sort of like positive affirmation and feeling like I can do my job. So like with the design work, if you make your design work as like a job, it can be really stressful, and because your work is going to be critiqued by a lot of people. So I think that's why I kind of stopped pursuing UX design. So if you guys know, but yeah, I was on a whole like kind of this journey into learning more about UX design and trying to get into the industry, but I kind of reflected on like what I like in a job, and I didn't feel like it was the right fit for me. But yeah, you never know, like maybe in the future, but I just feel like right now I don't think it's the right fit for me. So yeah, I think that's all of the tips, and yeah, I hope this video was helpful. I wished like I had more of these videos on YouTube for me to watch, especially as I am in my late 20s. I feel like I always wanted some guidance on how to navigate my career. I definitely have like talked about these topics with my friends before, and also my therapist too, and it's just really important to reflect on your career and take a step back and really think about what's best for you, instead of just like choosing a career based on other people and on your ego and on things like that that don't matter as much. So yeah, like if you're going through a career transition or you're thinking of it, I definitely recommend you to take your time, and there's no pressure for you to figure things out. Sometimes you're just gonna try it to know if it's the right fit for you. But yeah, if you guys like these type of videos, let me know and I can create another video. Let me know down in the comments, and subscribe to my channel, give this video a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. So I couldn't hear what you said. That was Siri.